Hey, good afternoon, comic art fans. Have we got a show for you? We've done two of these already, but I'll tell you, uh, Howard gets better with every conversation, and maybe with age too. We're going to find out. But he and I were chatting before things got started, and he's got me in stitches already. So, but hey, before we get started, as you know, we're going to do an interview and an art sale, and the art sale portion is going to be with fulfillment through Third Eye. We've done this before. You guys know how it all works. When we get to that portion of the show, Third Eye's been great. Nicole, she's in the background paying attention to all the claims that come through. So, she texts me when we get a claim, when we're showing the artwork. It's all really simple. Every artwork we show today will have a lot number and you'll and a price. If you're happy with the price, you will send an email to Nicole. It's all really, really simple. You'll send it to, let me hear, I can highlight it on this slide, Nicole@thirdeyecomics.com. So when we get to that portion of the show, it's good to have your email client open and ready to go. And just put in your subject line, Chaykin art sale, and in the body of it, we want your lot number and your name. So, and as I mentioned earlier, with them fulfilling it, the prices on the artwork that you see today will not include the shipping and handling. Prices for that are on the screen: $20 for domestic and $50 for international. So, and I'll review that again when we get to the art sale portion of things. But hey, let's get the man of the hour onto the show. Hey, Howard.
I was thinking happy thoughts, and you caught me in the middle of it. It'll pass.
It'll pass. We can't have that.
It has passed. Look at that.
So I'm just taken aback every time I look at the wall behind you. I just don't remember seeing so many things posted to the wall.
What did I tell you about the drug use? You just got to stop. Just cut it out. Straighten up and fly right. That's always been this messy. You know what it is? I had my oversized stuff leaning against me behind me, with like the Milk Gross book and the
Sundays. That's right. Yeah.
And I moved them over. I finally got bookshelves over it in my little library because my wife got rid of my shelves, and I said, I want them back. So I got them back, and that's why they're. So what you've got behind me is my drawing table, my bulletin board with all my shit on it. Over there. The other way. Over there, I'm moving over here, is a Robert Fawcett original of the art director from the Mohawk Paper Company. Be envious. Look upon my work, ye mighty, in despair. Robert Fawcett is one of my favorite artists in the world. And I've got a stack of books shelved up there. And as I told Bill before we started, I'm working on the figure work for this first half of issue 2 of volume 3 of Hey Kids Comics, a fictional history of the comic book business. As I've said more than once, a lot of it didn't happen, but it's all true. And it's a cruel, bitter, and reasonably funny take on why we do what we do. Because I believe that comics, as I've said more than once, is a calling, having more in common with the Jesuitry than anything else. We were also talking about Catholicism before we got on.
Yes.
And so comics is so deeply ingrained in my heart and soul that I'm a comics man. Just pure and simple. That's who I am. And I love the form. The content, I don't know. I'm not so sure. So that's me.
Well, the thing is, one of the things that struck me, just as I'm doing a little bit of my research beforehand, it's like, you're like the most qualified person to comment on the comics world, but also on the film world. I mean, when you talk about Black Kiss, I mean, you've kind of you've had a career in kind of both comics and film. And you've
I never worked in film. I worked in really shitty TV.
Okay, shitty TV. All right.
Shitty. I mean, really. Right. I mean, apocalyptically bad.
But you did it for a while, so it couldn't have been terrible. Somebody must have liked what you were doing.
Come on. I was there for the money. I mean, I'm serious. Look, I mean, I told this story a number of times. I realized at the age of 34 that I had no prospects and no future. And I didn't expect to make it to 50, but there was a potential that I might. And I had to do something to make myself, to give myself some sort of cushion against living on Social Security and cat food casseroles. So I moved to California with the intention of getting into the movie business using the cachet that Flagg had generated for me. Flagg never generated any real commercial value. It generated critical value. And I ended up in television, and I'm deeply grateful. I spent 12, 13 years as a staffer, worked my way up from story editor, where they got me really fucking cheap, to the top, and as showrunner. I got my ass kicked out of that in 2002. But it was really, really a a bifurcated experience. The first half of my TV career was working with guys I really loved, that I continue to love today. And the second half was working with and for people that I would gladly watch burn, burst into flames, be run over a number of times by vehicles, and laugh as their body parts sprawled across the pavement. Yeah, but I don't forgive. I hold a grudge like a son of a bitch. Like I hold a grudge like a bloodstain on silk, as I've said more than once. I'm not proud of this. It's a flaw of character, but I can't quite get away from it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if it's a flaw, but why do you think Flagg was able to get you work, in television, but it never really got that marketability? I mean, it won so many awards, in its first year. I mean, it's nominated, I forget what Eagle Awards, right? 10 Eagle Awards. You win 7 of them.
And you go in Nebula too. I mean,
yeah.
The reason being that, with all due respect, don't listen to this part because your feelings will be hurt now. The comic book audience wants something new as long as it looks like what's very familiar with. It's one of the reasons why, although it shared shelf space with Dark Knight and Watchmen was transgressive in its disdain and contempt for superhero comic books, and was a training manual as not to do this, and became a training manual for how to. And Dark Knight embraced the fascism. People who tell us how you really feel aren't really paying attention how banal that idea is, Steve. So be careful. The Flagg did not look. If Flagg had had a mask and a cape, it might have had some sort of deeper footprint, because it would resonate with the audience in its screen memory and expectations. I don't give a fuck. I mean, I was really happy with the work that I did. I was proud of the work that I did. The work feels somewhat crude and inept today, but it still has a resonant point of view. And I think graphically, I prefigured a lot of what was done later with Photoshop, with an X-Acto knife and Xeroxing and spray adhesive. But Flagg does not fit into the what was once a medium and is now a genre. I mean, comics have become a genre as opposed to a medium. It's one of the reasons why Riverdale, a show about the Archie kids, looks like Dark Knight, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's along the same lines as I've said more than once. Is if I got the rights to Curious George and did the edgy novel of Curious George and the Man in the Yellow Hat going back to Africa to deal with this female circumcision crisis, it's no less ridiculous. And that's where that's at, kiddo.
Dang, telling like it is. Well, that's I don't know.
Look, come on. I mean, I have no filter. I mean, Tourette's is for chicken shits. I have Tourette's.
Well, yes. Well, I don't want to jump to something that was very current, but
no, you don't, do you?
See, now you're going me on to do it.
Perhaps you do.
All right. Well, here's a good question for you, because I just held our recent virtual con a month ago, and part of that was one where we did this like a mystery sketch event. Artists got pieces of art that assigned a character. Like the person who was buying that commission did not know which artist they were going to get, but they could say which character they wanted.
That's kind of cool.
But I read something that you posted on Facebook just the other day where you had, and I don't know what was said about you, but I remember you saying that, someone approached you at a show, wanted you to draw a character that you weren't familiar with. You said you didn't want to do it, and you were able to walk away. And so in my case, with what we did, the artists couldn't walk away. They had to do it. They got assigned a character, but
no, they were stuck by moral responsibility, or at least shame.
Exactly. Maybe they could have talked amongst themselves and traded or something, but they didn't.
They don't, because that would mean they would have to be socialized, and they're not. So is there a question in there?
Well, the question, I guess, is so for you as an artist. I mean, you clearly don't have a problem with turning down, work or characters or likenesses, anything that you're not comfortable drawing, right? If somebody approaches you at a show, you're not necessarily you're not just there for the money like you might have been when you were doing TV.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I did television for 2 reasons, seriously, and with all nonsense aside, because I recognized that I had no future and no prospects. That the only way I could get to the point where I had health coverage was to work as an editor. And to this day, I still have no idea how much editors are paid, and so I have no clue. I did television so I could generate health coverage and income and potential real estate, which is what I got and I have. Okay. By the same token, when I show up at a convention, I'm there to be of service to the convention. I mean, the convention is my client, and the conventioneers are my client's customers, and I'm there to be of service. But it doesn't mean that I'm a traveling minstrel show. I'm not there to do everything that I'm asked to do. I like to accommodate, but I had no idea what this character this guy asked for looked like was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was aware of the character as a child, and even then, and childhood is a very long time ago for people like me. So I had no idea.
Born in what, 1950?
I was.
Yeah.
I was. And significantly, when I became a working professional, I recognized that I got work under false pretenses. I sucked. And I did not have the skill set required or commensurate with being able to do the sort of commercial work that superhero comics demanded of you. I didn't have it. By the time that skill set arrived, it was still a journeyman skill set. It was not a skill set specifically aimed at that sort of sensibility. By that time, I'd lost interest whatsoever in the material, which is why I had to come up with other things to do for a living, and why I got myself into kind of hole I did with Byron Price, because he was getting me to adapt. It was stuff I really wanted to do. And of course, nobody made any money working for Byron Price except for Byron Price. So the truth being that I can do a reasonably commendable superhero comic book, but I'm never going to be as good as any number of the guys who do this professionally. Significantly, as I've said more than once recently, comics is right now is a business in which the writer is the alpha, which is ridiculous unto itself, but there are reasons for this. And what's most ridiculous about it is that writers in comics are transient. They're transitional. For the most part, most contemporary writers are looking at comics, with a couple of exceptions, obviously, as a place to create IP and to move on to other more lucrative places like television or movies or mainstream fiction. Whereas artists, because of the trope and kabuki-based style needs of superhero comic books, are stuck, because there's no real way, other than in an ironic counterpoint to the work they're doing, that those skill sets will apply to work outside of comic books. They're stuck. And a guy who spends his entire life drawing super comics has not developed the skill set to do other work, because there's too much of an unrequited love for the material. It's an unconditional and unrequited love that is never looked at critically with an understanding of the work's value.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did you feel when you were, apprenticing or working in the studios with Kane or Wood? Feeling, because at that point, had you realized that the superhero genre really wasn't for you?
No, I wanted to do it, but I also knew I sucked. I was terrible. Yeah. When I went to work with Gil Kane when I was like 18, and I told him my samples were mediocre. He said, "No, they suck. They're dreadful. They're utter shit." And he was right. And he really was. But what I didn't know at the time was that he also was terrible when he started. He wasn't anywhere as terrible as I was. He was functional and terrible. I was non-functional and terrible. And he had the same arc and learning curve as I did. The difference, of course, was that he was constantly living beyond his means. He was constantly, one step ahead of the creditors. And he never learned to write comics. He could write an essay like a son of a bitch, but he was a terrible comic book writer. It was awful, and he was always looking for the shortcut, and never really evolved past a functional, effective superhero style. I mean, I'm of the minority opinion that he was the guy who most successfully channeled the Kirby ethos when his work at Marvel, despite the fact that Stan regarded his work as effeminate. Mm-hmm. And Gil's work was deeply influenced by the ballet and by dance, and his choreography of combat was incredibly influential on people who have no idea that they were influenced by him. I did a fake 60s comic book a couple of years back for a television series, and it was channeling Gil Kane, and I realized that I just don't have that kind of sensibility anymore. I just don't care about it. And I did okay, but there were guys out there who could have done a much better job. But I got the job because the line producers knew me from The Flash. So you know, I'm best served drawing people in real situations, wearing real clothes, having interaction that don't necessarily involve fisticuffs, no ray guns, and just, you know, I mean, the drawings that I've done for this particular presentation reflect, you know, I followed your direction. I did some, you know, some whorishly commercial pieces, and they're all my interpretation of superhero stuff. But, you know, it's what I do. What I do is do best is straight mainstream stuff. I would have been a good fit, I think, in the 1950s doing newspaper strips along the lines of Mary Perkins on Stage, Apartment 3G, and stuff like that. I don't have a hyperbolic, melodramatic approach to material. My characters don't overreact to stuff. I come from a cooler school, even though my work is very loud because I use sound effects constantly. I'm a great believer in the tropes of comics. My work has a coolness to it that is antithetical to the audience, which likes jazzy heat. You know, they're learning to appreciate Alex Toth, but they will never love Alex Toth as much as they love Kirby and those he influences, because the audience responds to the sensational nature of the material. It's why a guy like Rob Liefeld can continue to draw a crowd, and never really move beyond what he did in the first place. There's never been a second generation of skill set demonstrated there. I'm 50 years. Thanks, Steve. I'm 52 years into the career, and I'm still working, and I'm still learning, and I'm still, you know, looking for stuff to be taught by and to steal from, to tell you the truth. You know, it's hard to
not
find.
all evolution, right? You can borrow and it's all right.
Yeah, look, I mean, we look, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and I'm not really directly influenced by those guys whose shoulders I stand on, but they taught me how to do what I do. Every day I look at a little bit of Alex Toth, a little bit of Wallace Wood, and a little bit of John Severin, three very disparate talents who are deeply influential in the way I think about picture making. And picture making is what it's about. You know, the idea of creating visual literacy. My job, if I work on a job written by someone else, is to translate a literary sensibility into visual narrative, to create pictures and pages with narrative value, with placement of figures, with placement of shapes in panels that are story based, that are not simply decorative. And when I taught at Marvel for those 6-7 years of seminars, the primary impact on those days was that first day where I simply talked about how no panel can be arbitrary, that every panel has to have a function and a meaning and some narrative value that must contribute to the next panel in the skein. And that's hard for people to understand, because most people in comics just love the idea of drawing. They love picture making. I'm sorry, drawing, but they don't know anything about picture making. That, you know, they think that putting a 4 black lines around a drawing makes it a panel, and it doesn't. A panel has context. It has to have narrative value. It has to have visual literacy to it. It's got to have something going on beyond a guy standing and posing and striking an attitude. And it's tough for people occasionally to get into that. And one of the reasons for that, of course, is that most comic book artists don't read as much as they did when my generation came in. We were all readers, because that was where we got the fantasy elements of our experience, because there wasn't anything available on television or movies. Now television and movies provide the content that informed the form of my boyhood, but without the delivery system, comics delivery system. What comic book movies have taken from comic books is the content. And the content is the least interesting, least important aspect of comics. It's the language of comics that matters to me. And of course, I'm alone in that. You know, most people have been convinced by the powers that be that the characters are the brand. And I know full well that the reality is it's who's doing it, not what's done.
I mean, did you ever think about wanting to be an editor? I mean, it seemed like you could have had great influence.
Oh, I would be such a fucking pain in the ass to work.
Everybody they'd quit.
Oh, I'd be like, I mean, I'd be, you know, like, I mean, I loathe and despise Robert Kanigher. He's just a horrible human being. I wouldn't be anywhere near that awful. But, you know, the the comic book companies employ writers for editors, not artists, which of course means that most editorial criticism boils down to a literary idea. They don't really have an idea about what visual narrative is all about. And some of them have read the 5 C's or have taken the Robert McKee course, but that still remains literary ideas. They cannot identify narrative value in imagery, and that's of vital importance to the material.
Well, it's sequential storytelling. I know, I think many people who are fans of comics are coming at it because they're fans of the artwork and the stories too, of course. But I would think it would be evenly spaced between the two as far as like in the production of comics. They should be thinking about both things equally.
But they're not. I mean, because basically, the stories are often just rudimentary excuses for combat, and comic book readers tend to love superhero stories and science fiction stories and fantasy stories, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that when my generation came in, the guys who came in and replaced the editorial staffs who were dying or retiring back then were superhero fans. So they completely dismissed other kinds of comics. I only recently learned that besides doing maybe the most successful and effective imitation of Mad back in the 50s, when Mad was a comic book, Andrew and Esposito also did a couple of issues of romance comics. I've never seen the interiors, but the covers are absolutely brilliant. Rather than the usual expectation of romance comics covers, which is to say a clinch, these were tableau. They were vignetted tableau of men and women in situation. And they were just great. The great regret of those guys being suborned by Robert Kanigher, who came in and basically busted the attempts at collective bargaining and brought, the guys who were behind the attempt of collective bargaining into the DC fold and made them, not rich, but, comfortable, is an unfortunate fact of reality. So, I mean, I like other stuff.
Artist Andy Fish mentions that you would be a brilliant editor, which is why you wouldn't fit in well at the big companies.
Look, I hired when I went to work at Image in 2012, shortly after I got aged out of both Marvel and DC. I was gobsmacked by the fact that there was no editorial oversight at Image. I sent in comps for the 12 comps for the 6 issues of Black Kiss 2, and their response was mystified. Why are you sending me? So I hired an editor, and I hired an editor who is not a comic book person, but understands comics explicitly. And every idea that this editor of mine has cost me time and money, but 98% of those ideas are worth acting on. It's not a prickly relationship; it's a collegial relationship. But he is anecdotally. I mean, here's a piece of business. When we set out to do the 3rd and final arc of Hey Kids Comics, I did a 6-issue map of those books. I sent them to him, and his reaction was that I was spending too much time in front-loading material dealing with the period piece, because this 3rd arc is about fandom. Okay. And he said that I was investing too much energy in origin stories of that fandom and not dealing with the contemporary implications of fandom. So I said, fine, take my map and send back to me what you think it should be. And he eviscerated the map. But significantly, the eviscerations were invisible. I was not aware of any loss. I felt no profound discomfort in what had vanished. And that map I then took and turned into the 6-issue arc, which I'm working on now. It's all written. All 6 issues are scripted. The first 2 are copy edited. I think he's gotten 3 underway. But we've also been, dealing with getting Simon Cross, the Too Good to Die book, the Too Dead to Die book out. And so now, I mean, I'm on issue 2, and issue 3 will be ready for me to work on when I get to the artwork on that. So, I'm pretty satisfied with the relationship, but I always need an editor.
Is it because you don't trust yourself, or is it? I mean, I would think I would think most artists, creators need them, but I mean, for you, with your time out there, you I would think a lot of people would just say, you know what, I know what I'm doing. But you're saying I
I
need an
do.
editor.
I know full well what I'm doing. I truly do. It does not in any way obviate the requirement of having someone to sit there and listen, respond, tell you whether I'm going off the deep end, keep and remind me. And again, it's not a perfect relationship. I mean, there shit slips through the cracks. When I recently reread volumes 1 and 2, there were some cringing moments where we obviously dropped, we missed names, we missed character, just things were fine. But that happens. But it happens much less when you've got someone who's editing you. And I mean, look, it doesn't create combat, but it does create disagreement. And I subscribe to the idea that Eldridge Cleaver's great quote that too much agreement spoils a chat. And it makes for a better product. It truly does. We've been trying to solve the problem of a final closure book of Black Kiss. We want to do the Black Kiss Halloween special. And we're playing with various ideas of how to approach it. And we'll get to it because it's the next thing in the docket after we finish Hey Kids Comics, Volume 3. We're still wrestling at this point what the covers are going to be for Hey Kids. Don't know yet. There's a placekeeping dummy cover in previews, which was delivered yesterday. But we need to create. We're looking for. I know what the trade paperback cover is going to be for the collection. That's already in play. But I don't know what the 6 floppies are going to be. We don't know yet, and that'll develop as we go along.
That's that's interesting. I would have kind of thought you would have had those like figured out ahead of time almost. But the story.
No, my order is always internal narrative, untold tales, and then covers, because the trade paperbacks get back matter. I mean, one of the things that we did in the back matter for Volume 2 was 2 new stories featuring the character of Noah Gitlin, who was a very thinly disguised anodyne avatar of me. Both of those anecdotal 4-pagers are based on true incidents. And, Gitlin becomes a major player in Volume 3 because of Volume 3's narrative stress on fandom. I mean, comics owes its existence to science fiction fandom. The first editors were all science fiction fans. Siegel and Schuster were science fiction guys. And every generation, a generation of the guys who were my father's age, all grew up reading Weird Tales, Robert E. Howard, Edgar Rice Burroughs. Mm-hmm. Then the next generation were reading the comics done by those guys who've been reading Robert E. Howard and Edgar Rice Burroughs. And then my generation came along reading the same thing. I mean, we all read all the Sword and Planet stuff, all the Sword and Sorcery stuff, a lot of hard SF, and just all that material. We knew it, chapter and verse, and but we were also deeply steeped in movies of every sort. I mean, crime pictures, film noir, westerns. I recently, on the flight home from Columbus, Ohio, read a monograph by Janine Bassinger about Anthony Mann, who is one of my favorite directors of the 1940s and 50s. And her observations on him were just brilliant. They're really extraordinary. As to why, for example, he's not regarded within that same second pantheon of guys like Douglas Sirk and John Ford, Howard Hawks, and guys who really did what he did. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's because he died just as that sensibility was arriving culturally. And and reading her observations, I realized, not intentionally by any means, but much of her interpretation of Mann's idea about visual narrative is very much what informs my own work. That, going back to what I said earlier about the idea of pictures with narrative content, narrative value, and that's an imperative. And if you see Mann's westerns, if you see Mann's crime pictures, you can see that very idea in play. You look at Raw Deal or Team Men or We Walk by Night. You look at Man from Laramie or Man of the West. It's just, they are filled with silent sequences where the audience, which can bring, because of its own experience, an understanding of this nuance. And I fear that that current contemporary audiences, in their frequent objection to material done before they were born, for whatever socio-political or biological reasons they may have lost the ability to inform nuance with meaning and to read that meaning through that information.
Well, I remember reading a lot of surveys in the early 70s as far as, what popular comic characters were, and Conan was always at the top of the list, and then maybe Spider-Man would be a distant second, and then Superman or Batman or something like that. So it seems like, with that era, like you're saying, so much of fandom owes itself to science fiction and fantasy. You mentioned, we were in the green room earlier about going to the World Science Fiction Convention in '75. I mean, that was, those were the things that, and spaghetti westerns and films, like you mentioned, those were the things that were probably, super influential around that same time when Marvel's kicking out all these hero books. But Conan was still number one, even with all of that other material out there at that time. I mean,
and I think that's a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Lancer paperbacks hitting the market in the mid '60s.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered Edgar Rice Burroughs the day before I was bar mitzvahed on October the 25th, 1963. I bought a copy of The Fighting Man of Mars, the Ballantine edition with the Bob Abbott cover, because there were no new comics at the candy store. And it was like a Saul on the Road to Damascus moment for me. It was a transformative experience. I had no idea that this work had existed. When I looked at the publication date, 1927, holy fuck, this has been going on forever. And I missed it. No one had ever told me because it didn't exist for us. And then 2 or 3 years, two years later, the Lancer Conan book started coming out. It was like, holy shit. This was like an absolute revelation of a world we had not been aware existed. And of course, when I went to work for Gil, it was like, oh yeah, with all that stuff, I was mispronouncing Conan. He was teaching me how to pronounce these names. And this is all the stuff that informed his useful experience in their first publication.
Mm-hmm.
And that the fact that there was this wave of paperback reprints of this work that had informed those guys born in the mid-20s was just like a great linking idea. We were able to talk about the same thing. I mean, significantly, a lot of those guys who came up in that period rejected, renewed, and held on to. I mean, significantly, Al Williamson, I don't think ever outgrew his obsession with that pulp junk, nor did Alex Toth. Gil did, but not to any good measure. He never learned how to transcend it textually. I mean, Alex's taste in story ended, like atrophied in the 1940s radio drama. And there was more to go by, and it's more than relativism. I mean, Fritz Leiber's Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, Michael Moorcock's Elric, and Hawkmoon stories are genuinely better written than the material that influenced them. Mm-hmm. The Leiber stuff is better than Robert E. Howard's writing. It's wittier, it's funnier, it's smarter, and Moorcock is just a better writer than those guys. If you read Edgar Rice Burroughs today, it's like, holy shit, what was I thinking? This is just terrible. But it's so informed my 13-year-old boy's experience. It just right. Like, as I say,
I never read Howard. I hate, for me, it was, yeah, I mean,
it's like,
I've clearly missed out on a bit. I wrote Tolkien. I go back and read it now, and I don't know why I liked it as much as I did when I first read it. But
you can no more read it now than you can read Catcher in the Rye.
Okay.
It is children's literature. I mean, when I went to work with Gray Morrow, I met Gray in the late 60s and went and ghosted for him a lot in the early 70s. And significantly, Gray was suborned to come to New York by the guys who were the Flegels, Torres, Angie Torres, Williamson, Frazetta, Larry Ivy, that crowd. Mm-hmm. And he arrived in New York just in time for EC to collapse. So like a lot of those guys, he ended up working for Stan. And his first major job was a 32-page adaptation. I forget the name of the publisher. He may have forgotten himself. A 32-page adaptation of Howard's Tower of the Elephant, a Conan story. And the artwork, the company went belly up. The artwork was lost and never seen again. So there's this phenomenal apocryphal Conan comic book drawn in 1954 by Gray Morrow, which doesn't exist. Sure, it's shredded and pulped, gone. But that connecting tissue of having read that material, from Burroughs to Howard, and some people went on to the Tolkien stuff. Walter is a huge Tolkien fan. I never really was able to get into, and I couldn't really accommodate it. When I got into comics, I was seduced away from science fiction and fantasy to crime fiction by Archie Goodwin, who suggested I read the Augustus Mandrell novels, the Nero Wolfe books, the Hammett and the Chandler stuff. And that just changed everything for me. Because I'd always liked detective stories, puzzly stuff. But this stuff gave it an entirely different sensibility. And I think Rex Stout's Nero Wolfe books are just among the greatest unacknowledged giants of this material. I think they're acknowledged inside, but the fact that Stout was able to conflate the British style of puzzly detection with a hard-boiled narrative can never be overestimated. It was just an astonishing achievement, and he did it for so fucking long. 40 years.
Right. I've read Nero Wolfe,
and again with no flagging of quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, I don't want to. I see a few questions pop up here, and I don't want to ignore them. But Steve asked you about, he said he enjoys Mighty Love. Any chance of submitting it for consideration for a HBO Max series?
Mighty Love was actually written as a pilot.
Yeah,
and I've had zero interest for the most part in optioning my work. I mean, Mighty Love was never optioned. Flagg has been optioned a number of times, but each time it's been caught up in someone else's Michigas. Bite Club has been optioned. Black Kiss has been optioned, but nothing's ever happened with them. Power and Glory was optioned a number of times. But my work I've been luckless in getting that work translated to the screen. And again, I'm perfectly satisfied with the life and work that I have. So I'm not going to lose sleep over this. Bill, I'm going to ask you a favor.
Sure.
I'm a 72-year-old man who has to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
That's
Bill,
all right.
keep these people amused.
I'll put you on mute.
I would, because you don't want to hear this. I'll be back.
All right. Hey, everybody. So, you're right. Netflix could possibly pick up some stuff, but I'm sure that's always who knows? I mean, we'll talk more with him about pitching some of his IP. Vamp. Yeah, and at least you get the option money. That's good. Good point there, Jeff. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, like he was talking about earlier, every creator's hoping to get their IP picked up and move along out of comics and do bigger and better things that pay better. So I think we all get that. I think I'm always excited to see new products that are coming out that aren't related to Marvel or DC, but that reminds me of one thing I was going to tell him. So I'll kind of save that for when he comes back. But I did see there were several other questions that I have highlighted, but I've not. Oh, he's back. He is back. So let me drop myself back down here. Hey, Howard.
I'm back, drying my hands because good people wash their hands.
That's true. Hey, you know what? We one of the things you mentioned really early on was how like when Flagg was coming out, people just weren't as great as it was received and as many honors as it got. That you talk about people not being able to accept it because it wasn't he didn't have a cape, he didn't have a superpower. And the funny thing is, I mean, I was like 15 or 16 when it came out, and while I bought the first few issues, that was the exact problem I had with it. While I was like, I want to buy this, it looks great on the shelf, it presents well, it's something new. And I read through the first few, like the first 3 issues, and it just didn't work for me. I mean, I've read it later in life and through the whole thing, and I love it. But at that time, as a consumer of comics, I couldn't get past the fact that the character didn't have something. He wasn't telekinetic. He didn't, he couldn't do something beyond.
Somebody actually asked me what his superpower was at a panel, and I said that he can remove his underwear without taking his pants off, and he makes ice cream. And this guy was not amused. He was not delighted by my response. I did not make friends or influence a person,
Right.
As I say, I like the form of comics, but what has become the consistently acceptable form, for me, it lacks anything other than ambition to get out of it. It's not that interesting. And I empathize, also you were a 15-year-old chucklehead, what can I tell you?
I was.
I didn't say
I thought I was pretty, pretty savvy and a past my years, but I realize now that I wasn't.
You
You saying
need
that one
characters
thing.
wearing masks and capes, striking poses of gravity.
I agree. I mean, all this time I've been deluded. I really thought I was ahead of the curve back in the day, but just by you saying that one thing, you've struck me back. I'm a neophyte.
I accept the fact that being bitter about a reality. I mean, I'm the architect of my own adversity. I created the problem that I'm pissing and moaning about, because had I chosen to create a character that had all of the tropes and kabuki-like effects of mainstream comic books, I might have achieved a greater commercial and financial success, but I just don't have it's not in my DNA. I mean, let's face it. Watchmen was a cautionary tale about fascism and how super comics make fascism sexy. And instead of serving as a cautionary tale, it ended up being a training manual. And whereas Dark Knight was an embracing of that very fascism in a kind of an incoherent fashion. There's a phrase floating around the internet, incoherent ideology, which is one of the explanations of how so many people who voted for Obama could then turn and vote for Trump. And to a certain extent, Dark Knight reflects that incoherent ideology. It's liberal, it's fascist, it doesn't quite know what it's talking about. And Flagg was also made fun of people. It didn't make you feel good about yourself in any real way. And I'm okay with it. Also, comic book fans really like pinups and cock teasing. When confronted with the actual consequences of fucking, they get very hinky. They're not really happy with that. It's one of the reasons why Dave Stevens, who was a perfectly good draftsman, is so popular. He drew cute little sexy pinups. But his comic books bore the shit out of me. I mean, I don't really care about it. It's lovely. His drawings of women are really sexy and fun, but they're pinup art. Somebody posted a comic swipes thing of a page of Steranko opposite a page of Dave's. And Dave is a far better draftsman than Steranko ever was. But Steranko's page is filled with interesting design and clever ideas about placement. And Dave's is just like cute drawing, I'll never draw as well as Dave Stevens. It's never going to, it couldn't happen then, and it's not going to happen now. But I'm still putting together a comic book page vastly better than he ever did or will. And he's dead now, so it's okay.
No, hey, I get it, because I do think, well, that's why pinups are what sells comics these days, right? I mean, most of the times the cover of a book doesn't reflect anything about the story. They're just trying to catch your eye.
But it doesn't have to. Cover should not be a synopsis. I mean, when Stan was in charge of Marvel, and when Roy took over, they were obsessed with synopsizing covers. And it was just all those balloons on the page and all on the covers. Comic book covers should be iconic. The Watchmen covers are among the most brilliant I've ever seen. They're phenomenal. They catch the tone of the book. And I'm not cover art is my tertiary skill set, way behind writing and drawing. It's one of the reasons why I asked Dave Johnson to do the cover of the trade paperback edition of the Simon Cross book. Dave is the best cover artist working in comics today and has been forever. But the audience doesn't understand how good he is, because the audience responds to a level of pandering and patronizing sentiment. I've been reposting a piece I wrote on Substack recently about the spate of AI artwork, the title of which is "An Educated Consumer is Our Best Customer, So We're Fucked," because we don't have an educated consumer. And the AI will definitely devour and destroy artists' careers.
I thought about bringing up AI with you, and now you've done it. So, but I wasn't going to do it. I figured that was maybe something that you weren't as up on.
The audience doesn't care where it comes from. The audience is perfectly happy with a drawing of Wolverine, as long as it's a drawing of Wolverine. It doesn't matter who did it. If it's a really good drawing of Wolverine, it's like, in that thing about the guy asking me for the sketch of the convention, am I declining? I also went on and discussed some of the more bizarre requests I've gotten from people. There used to be a guy who was walking around looking for pictures of Barbie Benton dressed as Supergirl tied up. And that sort of thing is unusual, but it happens. Mm-hmm. And it's the audience's fetishist obsession with the specificity of the characters as opposed to who's doing what. Comic book fandom in its most official really came into being with the EC stuff. And most of those guys were fans of the guys who did the work. And, what I find significant when I go on the Facebook pages devoted to EC, there's frequently a dismissal of the idea that Harvey Kurtzman was a genius and that the horror books are the best. And they're not. I mean, the horror books at EC were one trick pony jokes that do not stand the test of time. Whereas the war books that Kurtzman did, the humor books, Johnny Craig stuff, the liberal hysteria of shock suspense, is just transcendently good. It remains value. It retains its value over time. And I always found it amazing that Wrights had always talked about being influenced by Graham Ingalls, when there's just as much influence of Jack Davis on his work, and through Jack Davis from Albert Dorn, who was a great, the guy who founded the famous artist schools, whose work would veer to the cartoony, who might have been a great comic book artist had he been born 25 years later. So,
well, with this, the one thing, I get your point about, fandom and fans of Wolverine don't care who drew him, just as long as they keep seeing him on the cover of a comic. But we as art collectors, I mean, I care about the creator and the character that's being drawn, right? I mean, with you, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I think we as art collectors,
you represent a vanishing sensibility.
I agree, but we're out there though, but I do understand what you're saying, because
you're old, and you're getting older every day.
Well, we're trying to, inform the younger generation so that they know to appreciate the creators, a bit more, and then less idolizing their creations, their characters and things.
I collect American illustration.
Yep.
Okay, and I live in a house that's larger than the house that I was living in when I was first started collecting, but has fewer walls because I have a lot of windows. I live at the beach, and I've been divesting of stuff just because it's, I have other examples of this guy, and I've got other stuff on the wall, things like that. And the market has fallen out. The bottom has fallen out of the market of illustration collection because the audience is perfectly happy with a digital version of what they're looking at. They don't need to see it. I mean, I'm looking around my office, and I've got a Dean Cornwell pencil drawing from the history of transportation mural in Rockefeller Center.
Mm-hmm.
A Don Daly, who was an unjustly forgotten illustrator of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. That Robert Fawcett piece over there. In my guest room, I have the original for the Outsiders poster by David Grove.
Oh.
And this work it's exemplary work, but the audience for that work is dying with your generation. Mine is already gone.
Right. I mean, Chris Lutz makes a good point. Unfortunately, I suspect most comic art collectors aren't out there actively buying comics anymore. And that's true. I mean, I buy far fewer comics today than I did 20, 30 years ago. And so, yeah, that is definitely part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the last comic book I read with any gusto was Stray Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, it was Palomino by Stephen Frank, which was an absolutely sensational crime book that takes place in the 1980s in the Barstow, Bakersfield, San Bernardino country western scene of North Hollywood. Pretty exclusive, but just brilliantly made. Pretty swell.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about Cody Starbuck, because I don't think we've talked about that character for you, and we also have a piece that we're selling later. It's one of the last pieces of the 18 lots that we've got. So I was curious about the gestation of the creation of that character. How did it come about?
Conan in space.
It's all back to that. Yeah.
Conan in space. I mean, in the same way, I was inspired Conan in space because Gil always described his name as Savage as Conan in the modern world.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to create an utterly amoral science fiction hero, the antithesis of Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, a reaver. And went through various incarnations. I did it, first for Star Reach, and I did it for Heavy Metal.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great time doing it. I was still, I still had an affinity for science fiction stuff. It was a kind of a Sword and Planet book. and influenced, certainly. I mean, let's face it. George Lucas was the half owner of Super Snipe, and Ed Summer gave him a drawing I did of Cody Starbuck well before Han Solo emerged. And Han Solo, in its original inception, looked a lot like Cody Starbuck. So I'm not. I mean, my feeling isn't hurt. This is the heavy metal stuff. I tried lots of different things. I was, there's that old Catholicism thing.
Yeah.
And just walking through different forms of, I was interested in doing fully painted comics, trying different things. Look at that. I worked like a son of a bitch. I worked hard.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to say to you too, is that your method of working today is so different than you wanted a challenge when you were doing this work.
Well, I was younger, and I was young and stupid. I was an idiot. Look, and a level of energy, committed to work that nobody gave a shit about. And I just, wow, I really worked hard. My God. I should go I'm exhausted by looking at this stuff.
Well, that's what I was thinking when I was looking at the work earlier. Because there's a few pieces of these on cap.
No masks and no capes. That's the problem. No masks, no capes. Without the masks and capes, the audience is like, "This isn't a comic. It's something else." Why are you making me look at this? Don't make me do that. That kind of shit.
I understand, but that's why it ended up in Star Reach and heavy metal, right? I mean, at the end of the day. You were relegated.
That's why, for example, I was nonplussed when the guys asked me to do that Starbuck piece, and I had a good time doing it. But I also didn't feel the need to do an action piece. I felt a piece of restraint was called for. Jesus Christ, what was I thinking?
I know. I mean, you must have worked a week on each of these spreads.
I don't recall. I mean, it's been. I mean, look, there was so much drug use back then on my part. I have no clue about. I was high all the time.
Man, look at that! I just can't imagine how much time you put into these. They're amazing. Right.
What an idiot I was! What a dullard! Just so stupid. Man.
But yeah, there's several of these. I mean, I was looking like this piece. I thought this is stunning. I mean, it's beautiful.
For those of you who are old enough to remember the Fairburn system, the model for Starbuck was one of the Fairburn heads. The Fairburn system was a series of books published by a British company. There were 4 of them, 4 sets of 3 each, that were headshots. So the first volume was headshots of British character actors in the 1970s. The great regret, of course, is that they never had a follow-up with updates. So all the male heads of men under the age of 40, you couldn't see their ears because they were covered by their hair. And but this guy, I use this model endlessly. Now I use him mostly for untrustworthy characters. The Fairburn system, right behind me. The 4 volumes are sitting right back there. Men, women, and characters, figures, kids, just all sorts of stuff. Look at that.
I know. How many figures are in this thing?
I'm falling asleep looking at it. It's so exhausting.
I mean, you were really pushing yourself when you were doing this.
Yes. To no avail, to no particular effect.
I was just gonna say, where did it get you?
Nowhere. No, absolutely nowhere. No fucking where. On the other hand, if I'd had those horns on their heads and their capes on their masks, I'd have been big, man, big.
Oh man, it's but I was surprised. I don't know. I guess I haven't looked for Starbuck artwork on calf before, but I was surprised. There's plenty of these spreads on calf.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at that. I mean, you're
look at that.
You're slaying it in this stuff. I'm telling you, Howard, it's just absolutely amazing. So anybody
but it's all very show-offy stuff that doesn't really amount to anything like a commercial audience, because the audience, again, is more interested, in the, whatever. I'm not going to get all hinky about it. I'm okay. And again, I thought the work was worth doing, and I did. I had a good time. This is all done at Upstart. I was, it was before I was 30. I mean, I left California the day before I turned 35. This is all work I did in my late 20s, early 30s, when I had an energy level that was commensurate with what was demanded of the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, it is absolutely brilliant.
That's nice.
That was why I was so happy to find you.
I hadn't seen this shit in years. This is cool.
You know, and again, it's just every single one of these. Just you didn't shortchange any of these spreads.
No,
and it's interesting. Why did you choose? I mean, I clearly there were pages here that needed to be a double page spread, so they needed to be worked on 2 boards. But why?
Oh no,
why?
It was done on a single panel.
Ah, all right. Wow.
They were done on a single board of illustration board, 20 by 30, 20 high, 30 wide.
Dang.
They were all double page spreads.
But see, something like this didn't need to be done like that. But was it for you just as it was easy? It was like visually you wanted to see what it was going to look like.
Format.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maintain the consistency of format.
Yeah. Well, you I just can't believe how much work was put into this, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm glad it's so much of it is still on CAF. So that's great.
Well, cool.
Yeah, and I was looking around. Here's a piece you did with Bernie, or the Bernie interviewers.
Which here's a place where Wrightson saving my ass, because I was terrible. I was just awful. Wrightson made it work. You know, he gave it. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. There's all this shit going on. You know, I was. You know, this is at a point where I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't really come into my own until I turned 30, and I have 10 years of junk out there embarrassing me. You know, so whatever.
So Bernie did you a favor on this one.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck yeah. He unified it and made it work.
Well, hey, before we get to the art sale too, I did not know this, but I'm sure you know it, that there's a couple books there's a few books out there about you. Why did they call you the dark? Why was the subtitle on this Dark Prince of Comics? I don't understand.
Because I usually sign my screeds as a prince. In a nod to Robert Downey Sr., who also did. And dark because it's easier for people to identify me as someone who is mean-spirited and dark, as opposed to filled with the jollity of fun. But bear in mind, besides being the Dark Prince of Comics, I'm also the Archbishop of Fun.
Now that I've heard before. I have heard that.
Es la verdad. Es la verdad.
So is this? I'm assuming you got to read this before it saw print. I mean, is it a good book? Very good characterization of you.
I'm. It's completely honest with me.
Yeah. Good. Well, and there was another one too. I mean, because I happened to be on Amazon poking around.
No, there are a number.
That's
I read that on a plane. It was really bizarre reading about. It's like Brandon Costello lost a bet, and he became the guy that had to write about me for the Louisiana State University. And he's written 2 books. One is Conversations, which is a collection of interviews, one of which he's conducted, and this book, which is an overview of my career, which is pretty insightful. I was flattered by it. Someone paid attention. But the audience for comic books is not interested in the kind. I mean, I know how good I am. I mean, understand. I mean, I got this good by labor and effort, but also the good that I identify, the standards that I bring to what I identify as good, have nothing whatsoever to do with the audience's sensibilities of what that means. The audience likes guys who come up with cute nicknames for their superhero characters. Spidey and Soups, and Bats. I don't give a fuck about that shit. Come on. And again, there's room in the world for all of that. I'm not saying it shouldn't be.
Right.
But I am saying that a man of 50 should not be entertained by the same shit he was delighted by when he was 12. Despite the presence of a penis. That just doesn't make it, slathering on gravitas does not make it give it an adult value. Again, back to Curious George, yellow hat, female circumcision problem. If you're embracing adult adventures of Batman then I will try to spring that Curious George going back to Africa to come deal with the crisis of female circumcision on you sooner rather than later, because you'll buy anything.
Well, Chuck says there's a great book of Chaykin interviews out there. I don't know what that is, Chuck, but shoot me an email if you find out what the title of that is. I'd love to get
Conversations. It's part of that conversation series.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Again,
well,
Brandon Costello loses a bet. Brandon Costello, rather. He's Irish, not Italian. Costello.
All right. I want to leave this open.
Costello is Italian. Costello is Irish.
How does that happen?
It's true.
I believe it.
Frank Costello, Brandon Costello.
Mm-hmm.
Both Catholics.
Jeff Moy was curious if you've seen Andor on Disney. Well, there you go. There's your answer, Jeff.
Oh God, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know, like when I went
King, you know, it's like, you know, I mean,
when I was looking at CAF, the funny thing is that, and I was sorting like searches for your artwork on the most viewed or most commented, and you know, of course, still like it's Star Wars or it's Black Kiss. It's you know, so it's sex and space. I mean, I think that there's something there. I mean,
yeah, but what's there is the confirmation that I would say perhaps 30% of the people who buy and read comic books in the United States have any idea that I did anything other than Star Wars. For the most part, that's where I mean, you know, like that old. But think of the exposure. Well, none of the exposure I got on those millions and millions of copies of Star Wars sold ever generated any other interest in work that I've done elsewhere, ever. Okay, it didn't happen because Star Wars is about itself. Had I known that it was going to be as big a deal, I'd like to think I would have done a better job, but I'm not sure I had the skill set. And I'm flabbergasted by the fact that Star Wars, as opposed to Elvis, is the source of the secular religion of the 21st century. I expected it to be Elvis because there's a credulity factor built into the audience on a mass level that demands an almost evangelical quality to a secular religion. And I mean, what Star Wars did was shocking to me because it got the people who used to beat us up in high school for reading this kind of crap becoming fans of it. You know, how many times do I hear some guy who was like these people were hot babes and hot guys in high school. All of a sudden they were nerds. Fuck you. No, you don't know what it is. You know, please spare me your nonsense. You were mocking me and my fellows for being obsessed with the shit that has become the tail that wags the dog. I will not be, fabulated by your bullshit.
I get it. I went through the same.
Look, I was my high school graduation picture was like a thumbprint with glasses. I got nothing, you know. Then I discovered drugs, and this happened. You know.
But the thing is that even though that work of yours is still some of the most popular, right beside it, as far as like the number of views or number of comments, is your personal work. And, you know, it's Dominic Fortune, and it's and strangely enough, it was some of the pieces. I mean, I'll just show it to you. Just don't get mad at me when I show it to you. But this is.
I'm not going to get mad at you.
Okay.
Also, you're in a different state. You can get away with anything you want.
Here, let me. I got to switch these things around a little bit so it actually do what I want it to do. There we go.
Bill Cox, Mr. Technology. Here he is.
Oh, okay. But so this is like ordered by most viewed stuff. And the funny thing is the first two that have your name on it, you were the writer of the material.
Right, because Mike Mignola has an enormous commercial footprint.
But the other one is Garcia Lopez.
Single worst selling graphic novel DC ever published.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're number one.
There you go. Well, see, but then there's Star Wars. But then after that, you get Dominic Fortune. You get this piece that was penciled by Mark Schultz, or now you've got a Conan piece. I mean, that's kind of out there. But then again, now we've got a pinup in Topper Helmer's calf. You've got something that's been blocked out because it's naughty.
Naughty. Naughty is one of those words that I just love. Call it filth, and just go right down to the butt. It's shamefully disgusting.
Well, I could quote the things I saw online. It says, most of your stuff was morally ambivalent and sexually adventurous. That's how they kind of defined most of your work during this period. Hedonism
And by the way,
and
that
cynicism.
describes my entire life until I turned 40.
But still, see, but again, this is order. There you go. Now you've got some Cody Starbuck. You've got more pinups from Satellite Sam. I mean, Black Kiss is here. A cover to Black Kiss. Yeah. So the thing is, it's not just that. I mean, I think people
you're right.
on our site define you very differently.
When you're right, you're right. I'm put in my place. I feel less than now.
Oh man. All right. Well, I wasn't trying to do that, but
you did anyway. But intentions are nonsense.
That's true. And we have art to sell here, but I did have one other thing I wanted to ask you about.
Bill, I'm here for you.
Good, because I'm doing a Christmas special. You know,
by the way, I desperately need, next time we do this, I got to remember to bring a catheter. Keep talking.
Oh man, you wrote a like 6 issues of a Die Hard prequel. How in the heck did you get a job like that? And the only reason I want to ask that is because I actually I'm doing a Christmas special on one of our shows. It's going to be on the Wednesday after Christmas, and it's based on Die Hard. I should have talked to you in advance. I mean, you could have. Did you get any? Was there any catchphrases, but that you came up that weren't part of the the lexicon?
I have no idea. I mean, I was approached by the guys at Boom to write these 2 series. And no idea why they opted to get me. I guess Mark Waid wasn't available. And it's possible, I don't know. And I had a really good time doing both of them. The one about the girl playing a star on the American Flag was actually based on a real person in a real situation. It was actually, she wasn't playing a star, she was playing an elf. It was a Christmas story, but all that stuff was real. I mean, the bicentennial in New York City was a big part of my experience. I was violently ill for it. I got ptomaine poisoning. Oh man! And I was eating a bad burger, and just the whole both those stories resonated with actual personal experiences, and I had a really good time doing them. I wish the artwork had been a little more oomphy. There was just something. It was a little bit less than, but I have no idea why, but I had a good time doing it.
All right. Well, had I known, I would have shown you my script first. You could have been my editor.
Shred your ass.
Well, it's already been filmed, so I can't fix it. I can't send it to you now. But
now, what you wrote a Die Hard Christmas thing?
Yeah. We on that. The show I do with the dealers where we sell art, we've done theme shows where we kind of do a story in 5 parts throughout selling the artwork. And I did one for Billigan's Island, which was me as Billigan. We did one called it was Doozy Doo, so it was a riff. It was a Halloween special. We with Scooby-Doo, Batman, Robin were in it, and then we did a May the 4th episode, a Star Wars episode. I'm sorry to say, but it was well done. It was really well done. So now we want to do a Christmas special, and we're calling it Buy Hard because it's got a riff on that. But
because you're commercial whores.
Exactly.
I'm here for you.
Thank you. See, I should have. If I would have known, I would have passed it over to you first, and you could have.
Had you but known.
I wonder if I would have gotten it back and not been able to see how much you eviscerated the script.
Look, I was hitchhiking. This is in early 1970s, and I got picked up by a little blonde in a VW bus, a VW Beetle, who was desperate to find a costume shop on Northern Boulevard in Queens, where she was going to be picking up an elf costume. She was a ground employee of TWA. That's how long ago this was. Wow. So that she could dress as an elf and make an additional $50 at the office Christmas party. And she was new to New York. She was brand new. She was from the hinterlands of Ohio. And I ended up having a 2-month-long massive sex fest with this woman. Her first question to me after we introduced ourselves was, she asked me whether I was an Eskimo. Because being a Jew was something that never crossed her mind. It was just like Eskimo was her otherness to it all, and that opened the door to any number of fabulous things. So I commemorated that experience in the Die Hard book. So Christmas would have been a perfect thing.
Wow. Well, I'm going to be thinking.
Where are you now, Rosie? Where are you now?
But you did clear things up. You let her know that you weren't an Eskimo, right?
I laughed so hard. I'm sure she picked up on it. I mean, it was.
Oh my goodness, boy!
I was definitely her first member of the tribe. You know, you never know.
All right. I think we can move into the art selling segment of things.
I'm like riding shotgun with you, Bill. You're in charge of this game.
All right. Well, the audience is we're at 100 people watching this right now, so it just kept growing.
People have anything better to do with It's Saturday. Go hold up a liquor store for fuck's sake. Wait a minute. No. Okay.
He didn't say that, everybody. That's not something we recommend you do on the channel.
Don't hold up a liquor store.
Oh boy! All right. Well, let's move over to that.
Without pantyhose.
What was that?
Without pantyhose.
Without pantyhose.
And if you wear pantyhose, bring a friend because there are 2 pairs. You know.
That's right. You got to stay close. You make a bigger target if you do that, though.
I'm here for you. Again, as ever, I am here for you in this regard.
Well, JB said that he was out Christmas shopping, but this is way more fun than Christmas shopping.
No, well, again, it's a pretty low bar, honestly. Yeah.
Oh boy! Well, and Mark Fong he's up at 4 a.m. in Singapore watching us. So
why? Again, liquor store. Get him now. Belgium, one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah. Wow. I have never been to Belgium.
It's fabulous.
Well,
Ghent, Bruges, Brussels. It's pretty cool.
All right,
I love hearing from every Belgian I meet that they were the ones who invented French fries, so fuck those guys. It's true. Belgian fries. To hell with that French people. Pomme frite my ass.
Well, there you go. Daryl says Howard has the best stories and is always the most interesting creator to talk to at a con. Never a dull moment.
Again, a very low bar, you know.
I think everybody likes your singing, Howard. I forget who I had on.
If they ask me, I could write a book about the way you walk and whisper and look. I could write a preface on how we met so the world would never forget. And the simple secret of the plot is just to tell them that I love you a lot. And the world discovers as my book ends how to make 2 lovers of friends. Thank you very much.
My goodness. Have you ever been on stage?
Not on purpose.
All right. Well, you could be. You've got a good voice.
Sometimes it hurts to be this quick. It really does. It's
amazing.
It's painful.
All right. Well,
I'm wearing my shirt. Look,
you're representing.
A tribute to my favorite comics group.
Ron Limbs basically says we could probably do a whole show just on Howard's tales of debauchery. That would be one where we'd have to kind of probably lock that one down a little bit. Just
statute of limitations is still not active for me. I got to keep that shit down.
Oh boy! All right. Well, we're moving into the art sale thing. We got it. But because we know we're going to have Howard on again, we will.
Because I'm the Archbishop of Fun.
Exactly. All right, so let me go over the ground rules again, everybody. No claim.
While you're doing that, I'm going to the toilet.
I'm going to put you on mute again, Howard.
Mute me now, immediately.
You're muted. Go. All right, so back to the rules here, everybody. No claims in the chat like we do on Dueling Dealers. Fulfillment on everything is handled by Third Eye, as you know. And remember, prices don't include shipping and handling. $20 domestic, $50 international. And you can combine on shipping too, of course. So, those prices stand firm, whether you buy all 18 pieces yourself or just a pair or just one, they will combine on shipping over at Third Eye. And email Nicole at thirdeyecomics.com if you want to claim any of the artwork today. First person to get the email into Nicole will get the artwork. She will reply to you immediately if you did get it. And she also does attempt, depending on the number of emails that come in, to reply to those who didn't get it. But just bear that in mind. If you don't get a reply right away, you did not get the artwork if I announce that it has been claimed. Just make sure your subject includes Chaykin Art Sale, something close to that effect, I'll take, or Nicole will take. And then in the body of it, include the lot number and your name, so that Nicole's got your contact info, makes it real easy for her to invoice you after the show. And as everybody knows, we want payment done in 48 hours. All the artwork will be in Nicole's hand on Monday. It shipped a little late, but I know she's got it now, and she'll be shipping things out probably Tuesday, Wednesday. So you'll have it by the weekend practically. That's the beauty of working with Third Eye here. And what could be easier, right, Howard?
It's the beauty of it all. It's just like a charm, it works.
It really, really does. And behind the scenes, Mr. McLaughlin does play an important part. We never talk about him.
Don't flatter him. He's don't encourage him. He's
all right. I won't.
I mean, come on. Enough.
All right. All right. Moving.
I'm snuggling into my chair right now. I'm sitting down and judging every fucking one of you.
There we go. So now I can tell you the first
Olympian position.
While Howard is judging you, the first 6 pieces that we're showing tonight are a new size format. Typically, most of the pieces that we've done in the past are 8.5 by 14. Howard wanted to put a few more affordable pieces out there for everybody. So he has done the first 6. They're all about 4 by 8 in size. So if I'm holding up a notepad, this is actually 4 by 8. So about that size. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell when it's here, but if it's my hand, there you go. It's about the size of your hand. So these first.
And by the way, this is we owe this to McLaughlin. He was the one who insisted we try this.
So if it doesn't work, well, okay, well, good. If it doesn't work, we blame him.
Right. Rat on his ass.
So the first 6 pieces, all 4 by 8. So we're going to go ahead and show them, they're lots 1 through 6, of course. We'll show the first one right now. And remember, everybody, I should highlight it. I just want to say it one more time. Come on, Nicole at thirdeyecomics.com. And I did put her email address on every slide. You can't miss it. But again, be ready to email Nicole and she will take care of us. So first up, the first lot here is I didn't know what to call this one. It's a blonde. It's lot number 1. It's on 4 by 8.
It's basically a black kiss. It's a black kiss piece. Let's call it Beverly or Dagmar. It's tiny and cute.
It is tiny and cute.
And she's a lovely girl. And I will say no more.
It's it is lovely, and and that was the one thing I kind of liked about doing these smaller pieces. It seemed like I mean, I can't imagine. You must is everything pen or brush when you're doing these pieces?
It's mostly pen. I'm using rapidograph and Indie ink for blacks, and also I go into it a little bit with a Prismacolor black pencil. You can see the cheek line and the indication of her rib cage, things like that. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So if you like this piece, you email Nicole at thirdeyecomics.com, let her know the lot number, lot 1, starting us off, $200 on this one. And you don't need to say it's the blonde or black kiss or anything. Just lot 1 in the description and your name is all we need. So this is the first one. And I'm not getting any text. So that's 0 for 1 for McLaughlin now. And, you never know.
How dare he?
and everybody should always be taking notes. I always forget to tell everybody that beforehand. But the savvy guys in the chat know what to do, because you can claim these at any time by shooting Nicole an email. Maybe we get to the number 6. You've seen it now. You know what's there on these 4 by 8s. You can then email her. Any of the pieces that you want if they weren't.
And as of now, my feeling is not hurt yet, but I've only got one.
Only got one. All right, let's take a look at the second one here. Here we go. A Satellite Sam, female character sitting on the. I love it. I mean, the space helmet. I mean, it's perfect. So this one's $200 as well, and again, you're having fun with these.
I am. I mean, this all came out of a conversation you and Jim and I had, and it was an opportunity to do something a little different in this particular context, and had a good time with it. So, and again, my feeling remains unhurt. Keep going.
All right, I have not been texted.
I'm sensitive, but not that sensitive. I don't trigger easily.
Hey, I understand. Well, I get well, I don't get hurt. I have pretty thick skin. I think.
I like making safe spaces for cruelty. That's what I do.
All right. Well, here is a little. This is a little different. This is a Marvel piece. It's The Thing, of course, and Smoking a Stogie at $200 as well for lot 3. So why
and the off-panel Human Torch lighting his cigar?
That is, I was wondering about that. I did. I when I saw that, I thought, is that what's going on or not?
That's exactly what's going on.
All right. Well, see, there's an unseen Human Torch in this 4x8 as well.
And it's like Human Torch implicit.
Well, I'll tell you, we had on that same Dueling Dealers show, a meme that we weren't able to. Well, I never got the content, but I had written it for somebody. I said, I want you to pretend you're the Thing, smoking a cigar, and we're going to have like this flamethrower just get blown across the front of your face to light your cigar. And, you're going to give the Human Torch what for. And we never got to that. I
would hope not. That sounds like human destruction.
Well, I mean, there wouldn't have been any destruction in that one, but it would have looked good on screen. It's all CGI, Howard.
I worry about people who play with fire and that kind of thing. It's scary for me.
All right. I'll avoid it. But all right. Well, see, Thing is still out there too. Those 3 were all.
I want to thank all of you for humiliating me by not buying anything. I'm really here for you in that regard. I mean, there's nothing like making an old man Saturday really shitty. Thanks. I'm really grateful. Let's go on.
You are the Archbishop of Fun.
That's me.
Next up, lot 4. This one's priced at $250. It's a Catwoman with a cat. Very, very attractive. This one's again on 4x8. This is the 4th of the 6 4x8s that we've brought to the show today. And are you a cat person, Howard?
I was until I met my wife, and now I'm a dog person. I have 2 bulldogs, a Frenchie and an English. And they are among the ugliest and stupidest dogs I've ever known in my life. But I was a cat person when I lived in New York City, because that's the way you live in an apartment. You have cats and shit, my wife does not understand cats. She regards them as disgusting and terrifying. On the other hand, she likes big, dumb dogs. So I'm a good husband.
That's why it's lasted so long, right? My goodness.
Well, we're in, We're planning on dying together. Hopefully not soon. It's good.
That is a good plan.
I think you see. Yeah, I'm glad you see things my way.
Yes, exactly. So you were a cat person back when you were doing Flagg, though. I mean, that's how we got Raul.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. Raul was based on a cat that lived with me at that point, named Cochise, who was one of the most neurotic cats I've ever known. If he could have smoked, he would have. That kind of thing. So, yeah.
So he pretty much wrote himself then into your story.
Pretty much. Yeah, absolutely. No question about it.
I love it. All right.
And of course, all the women in Flagg back then were based on women I'd been married to at one point or another. So there you go.
You're back to the debauchery again. We got to save that for another show.
It's inescapable. I mean, look, I used to be fuckable. Now I'm an unmade bed. It's fine.
I thought we reserved that conversation for the green room, but now everybody.
Oh, this isn't we're live? Oh my God.
Moving right along to lot 5, the second to last of the 4x8s, we have a awesome Flagg piece here with Raul. I should have noted that. Look, he's got his bow tie and everything on here. So friendly, so lovable, rubbing his tail up against him. But this one's $300 and nicely done, of course. No cape, of course, on this character, but
a mask, but an implicit mask.
An implicit mask.
Yeah, the eyebrow.
Well, yeah, I guess. See, all right, I see that. So I just see a lot of Western stuff when I think of Flagg. That.
Oh yeah, I mean, Flagg is basically what happens if you take Gunsmoke and Terry and the Pirates and put it into a dystopic landscape with a lot of underwear.
All right, I get it. I totally get it.
I knew you would. I had no fear.
All right. Well, this lot has been claimed. There you go. Okay. Flagg.
About fucking time.
Flagg broke the ice.
I say about fucking time.
I'm not saying that.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you hurt the feeling of an old man? Wait a minute. Okay. I'm
All
over
right.
that.
Well, you know,
It is past like a kidney, like a spiritual kidney stone. It has moved on.
those are painful. I've had one of those. That's
Not me. You know,
lucky.
I mean, I wish it on others. I wish people I truly hate would go through that shit on a regular basis. And I got a shit list. You know, so
It was the worst pain I've ever gone through.
so I gathered. You know,
Yeah. It felt like a tiny dagger. Well, not a narrow dagger that was at least 4 inches long, just jabbed into your hip and just twisted for about 6 hours until I got pain meds. So I thought I was dying. It was that painful.
I'm a big fan of pain meds.
Well, I was after that.
I like
all
pain
right.
in others. I like pain meds for me and pain for others. It's a perfectly good breakdown.
Man, Howard, now I don't know what to say. I'm speechless at the moment.
Say everything.
Well, here, I'm going to talk about Lot 6 now. This is a Darth Vader, and looking ominous as always. And this one's priced at $300. It is the last 4x8 piece that Howard did for this show, thanks to Jim McLaughlin. And I like this one. I love the cape. I love the silhouette. I think I like your approach to this. And Vader looks pretty solemn in this one too. He doesn't.
It's because he's wondering why his wife isn't home yet. You know, Dorothy Vader. You know, no, okay.
Yeah, he doesn't have an answer. Well, she's in trouble when she comes home. But yeah, no. This is it's a good one. It is a good one. We've had a few Vaders on in the past, I believe. But this now. But do you go back and look at reference when you do this, or do you just?
Is it just? I can't fake this shit.
No, it's just not like muscle memory.
No.
Just drop back in and you can draw.
No. One more time for the West Coast. No. I can't. Right. I mean, I have. Bear in mind, I've only seen 2.5 of the Star Wars movies.
Only 2.5?
Yeah.
You walked out on the last one?
The third one was I watched it on VHS and my phone rang and I answered the phone and I never went back to finish the movie.
So you don't know how it ends?
No. I'm assuming we win. We win, all right? It was over.
Oh, right.
I've seen 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
But you didn't watch the whole series? There's 2 seasons out there. No?
No. It was like, I've seen enough Sky King.
All right.
Yeah.
It's okay. I actually watched both seasons.
This is not an apology. It's just simply a statement of fact. Not my world. Lots of other stuff, but not that stuff. No.
All right. Well, only one lot was claimed. Lot 5 so far. You've got.
By the way, my feeling is really hurt now, and it's irritating. I'm getting irritating bowel syndrome from my feeling right now. I'm hurting. I'm deeply hurting. Where are you people?
Yeah, I'm not, Mark. I'm not going to ask Howard that question. So,
what was the question?
His question was, did Howard get fair royalties for his Star Wars work? I knew the answer to that one. So.
No, you know the answer to that question. No, I received an additional final flat payment of $15 a page for all the work that I did. And again, the work was shit, so that was what it was worth. But had it been the royalty system in place a year or so later, I would have made $1 million to $2 million. But I'd be dead because my lifestyle involved a great deal of misbehavior. So go on. No, I did not. I mean, I made more money on the Star Wars stuff from the Dark Horse reprints and from the IDW Artist Edition than I ever did from Marvel.
Yeah, that's criminal. Yeah.
No, it's just
business, right?
As Super Chicken said, that you knew the job was dangerous when you took it.
Well, this is why was it things like that made you want to do Hey Kids comics? I mean, is it your experiences?
No, not really. No. What I wanted to do Hey Kids comics because the guys who I grew up reading and talking to were so bitter, and I wanted to get that bitterness out there because there's a counter narrative to the nonsense story. They're all just a bunch of comic book loving guys, and and comic books has always had a whiff of the criminal enterprise built into it, and I wanted to commemorate that and memorialize it.
Well, we're going to talk about that on the next show because that's an area that I wanted to ask you about that, but I want to ask you about it now.
Okay. All right.
And we almost had Lot 3 sold, but it's still available. I'm not quite sure on that one, but comment wise, we did not sell Lot 3. It's still available. That was the thing. That was the thing.
Interesting. Almost sold it.
It was a maybe, but you never know. Kind of can come back to that one.
Maybe.
So we're going to move on to
Ollie Smith and the Chantels can say maybe. You can't.
Maybe. Man, we could do a whole episode where you sing.
Oh, keep going, Pally.
I'm going.
I got
it's Saturday afternoon.
Waiting here,
I got it. Let's keep it going. Lot 7 here, everybody. We're moving into the 8.5 by 14. So this is lot 7, priced at $450. You got Magneto. He looks like he's levitating. He's probably up to no good. Plenty of mischief. And it's priced at $450. If you'd like to claim it, you can shoot an email to Nicole@thirdeyecomics.com. So why Magneto, Howard?
Why not? I figured you're the one. You and McLaughlin, convinced me to do some Marvel stuff, and it was an opportunity to do another Jewish supervillain.
I didn't even think about that.
No.
Well, it's
actually I just made that up. I had no idea why I did Magneto.
But no, it's Magneto. You've done a lot of Wolverine. We're going to see a few Wolverines coming up too.
Yeah.
So there's a definite X-Men theme to some of the pieces that are in here today. Yeah, I know. I think I know why you're always running to the restroom. You're drinking a lot. You're getting the water.
I have to hydrate. Don't judge me.
I'm not judging you. My wife tells me she's always asking me why I'm not drinking water.
Very judgmental. Terribly judgmental.
All right. Well, lot 7's out there. That was the Magneto at $450. Now we've got Wolverine. We've got a masked Wolverine here on the 8.5 by 14. This one's priced at $500, and it's lot 8. And you know the drill. You want to email Nicole at Third Eye Comics if you are interested in picking that one up. And this is more of his more modern costume, not from back in the that Nick Fury Wolverine Scorpio story.
Well, I covered a lot of ground with that. I mean, I did the character in the late 80s, and I did it again in the mid-aughts. So I got around.
So we've heard. Let's see here. So yes, there's Wolverine. Yeah, Wolverine lot 8, priced at $500, and on the 8.5 by 14. So shoot Nicole if you'd like to pick that one up. Now this next one is it's not filthy at all, Howard. This is Beverly, of course. Lot 9. Priced at $550.
Wholesome entertainment for the whole family.
It is. She's very attentive in this image here. Yeah,
the eyes that follow you around the room.
Exactly. So I mean, this is from Black Kiss, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the character of Beverly. I mean, I hate to say it, I've only read about 2.5 books, so I'm not. What was the thought behind bringing Beverly?
Beverly Grove is a character inspired by Diana Dors, by Mamie Van Doren. Kind of a minor blonde sex pot of the 1950s and 60s, who turns out to be an immortal succubus. Whose familiar is a transvestite who has modeled herself entirely on her to become her visual twin. That's the franchise. I mean, I've read that summary too, and it's I'm at a loss for words. I mean, how did it come about though? What was the gestation of wanting to do? Well, I was on Madison Avenue in the mid 80s. And I saw a woman I dated some years earlier down the street, and I walked up to her. It turned out not to be her, but a transvestite who looked exactly like her. And I wrote a note to myself: twins connected by a penis, and that became the gestation point of Black Kiss.
Amazing.
Seriously.
Well, I would not have guessed that at all. Well,
obviously, I am not making a major inroad into the people who are watching this show this evening, and I'm disappointed. But I will survive.
No, we're gonna keep working this. We've got because we're halfway through. We've got 18 pieces. That was a lot.
One piece, and I'm very hurt.
And it does show, Howard. It does show.
Look, I'm dying inside, babe.
Well, here is lot number 10, and this is a Punisher. drawn pretty dang amazing. I mean, you should be drawing Punisher now. This looks freaking great.
I had a pretty good time drawing the Punisher. I had a good time drawing the character because he basically always struck me as looking like an Italian wrestler, and I really liked that franchise. I had a good time doing the book. I did a run of it with Fraction. I did a single issue of it with Garth, and had a good time with that character. I could not imagine writing, but I like drawing, and it was a fun character to do.
I mean, is because of the lack of powers? I mean, was that
No,
kind of
just
part of it?
the idea of all the guns and all the urban stuff, just the city stuff, and the Fraction stuff was more comic booky, whereas the Garth stuff was kind of darker pulp. And in both cases, it was just an exercise of a skill set that I like playing with. I had a good time with this material. I really did.
This one's claimed, by the way, too.
What's that?
This one has been purchased.
Oh, great! Good to know. Thank you. About fucking time. He said without anything gracious or gratitude. Thank you for protecting me from my own ego.
Yes, exactly. But no, I mean, I think that this is I could see why you'd get into a character like Punisher. I mean, and again, when I saw this one just stood out. It was like I could tell you were very into pulling this one off. I mean,
it was fun.
You should be drawing more Punisher.
No, I shouldn't be. I should
be
doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is hanging out with you, pissing away a Saturday afternoon, having my ego affronted, and just generally speaking, having a good time.
All right. Let's keep this show.
Listen to that tone. All right. Okay, old person. All right. Okay.
I'm going to show lot 11 now. Here we go. Lot 11. We got an Iron Man now. You were speaking about Downey Jr. earlier, and did you?
Iron Man. When I was a kid, I loved Iron Man. Was my favorite character in Marvel for the longest time. And when I got older, I realized a lot of it was wondering how Tony Stark could be such a wild playboy with that shit in his chest. What a romantic life he must have had. You know what I'm saying? Don't look at my chest. There's this thing glowing in the center of it. No, look at me. The guy was actually living like a monk, but allowing people to believe that he was having this rapturous romantic life. Amazing. But I've drawn Iron Man a couple of times. I've had a good time doing the character. And my one regret is I didn't get an opportunity to do the character in the old gray suit, which we'll deal with later.
Did you see the Netflix? What was it? Senior show?
No, I have not seen it yet.
I watched about the first 20 minutes of it last night before falling asleep, but it was good. I mean, I'm
a huge fan of his father's work. I mean, I think Putney Swope and Greaser's Palace are among my favorite pictures of my youth. I still reference. I can't hear the name Maximilian Schell without hearing someone. I love rock and roll. Have you seen Putney Swope?
I have. Yep.
It's an amazing picture. As is Greaser's Palace with Diane Arbus's husband.
That I have not seen, though.
Oh, well, the guy who played Sidney the psychotherapist on MASH plays Jesus Christ in this movie.
I'm writing
it's an allegory,
Greaser's
it's an allegory of the life of Christ taking place in the Old West, in which Jesus Christ tap dances on water. I'm not making that up.
Well, I've seen the clip of that. I have seen that image, but well, anyways, we'll move on. What is this? Howard can't get through a movie anymore without at least one nap. So I don't know where that came from, but
wow, that's not true. Bill is the one who's falling asleep, not me.
That is right. I fell asleep last night watching it. So
I don't. I'm up watching it, babe. No.
All right. Well, lot 11 has not been claimed. It's still out there. So we're going to switch over to lot 12. A little change of pace here. You're doing the Shadow. I know this is a character that you enjoy doing it. This one's $600. It's lot 12. And sorry, I'm making a note here. But working on the Shadow. I mean, that's a couple collectors who have chatted with about you. The Shadow for them is like one of their favorite stories that their characters that you've worked on.
Well, because I mean, basically the original material and the prequel that I did later on for Dynamite was regarded by traditional Shadow fans as just an affront to the senses. That I was I did to the Shadow there say what Robert Altman did to Philip Marlowe in the Long Goodbye. I mean, I did not grow up reading the Shadow stuff. I was as I said earlier, I was a Sword and Planet and Sword and Sorcery guy. So I never read the crime pulps. But the Shadow is, for me, interesting in its graphic nature. I mean, the character's costume, the world in which he functions, and the agents and everything else. I mean, I was really grateful to do the Midnight in Moscow prequel to the original Blood and Judgment, because he gave me an opportunity to really expand on the character as a period piece, which the first volume, which Blood and Judgment did not. So it was a nice lead up, and I've always found the character of Margot Lane really interesting. You know, I mean, I'm very close pals with the guy who brought me up to speed on some of the elements of the character, which I did not know, which had I known at the time I was doing this in the 80s, I might have brought a different sensibility to it because of what Cranston was, what Allard was, and just how those characters interrelated. So there you go.
All right. Well, this one's claimed as well.
No shit.
We got Shadow fans in the.
Thank you very much. Despite all the rest of you who are treating me like an old man who's worthless and powerless, how dare you? Thank you very much.
Boy.
Oh, don't give me that exhaling
cynicism.
stuff.
The cynicism.
No, skepticism, not cynicism. I'm a skeptic, not a cynic. Right. I'm a romantic realist.
All right. I get it. No, I can see the difference.
I knew you would.
All right. Next up, we've got lot 13, lucky number 13, $600 on this Luke Skywalker on the 8.5 by 14. And he's got his, you got the lightsaber. You got it looks like he took Han's pistol.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens after Han dies.
It's from one of the. I think it's from the third film.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I only saw half of.
They were. That's when they had the little Ewoks, right?
Right. Which I gather are cannibalistic teddy bears.
That's what they look like. That indeed. Yeah, because it was funny. I didn't like the third film. I saw all three of them in the theaters when they came out, but the third one was the one that was you were expecting it to be like the icing on the cake, the thing that was just going to like seal it up and be a home run. And I don't know. It was probably the Ewok.
Was it a turd in the punch bowl?
I don't know. It wasn't that bad, but it was. It just wasn't what. When you want a trilogy to kind of end on a high note, it just didn't nail it for me.
I think that's fair.
I don't know what.
The same thing is true with that Batman, the Chris Nolan Batman stuff. I just thought,
Right. Exactly. The whole Bane thing, just it was neat, but who wants a crippled Batman starting up in the final, the ultimate, closing of the trilogy, having him come out. I mean, I see the need in it, or the storyline and the plot, but I felt the same way. I was like, wow, that just wasn't the Batman, climax that I was looking for.
Right.
So, well, this one is still out there at lot 13. Not enough centaurs.
Shame on all of you.
Hey, the Star Wars fans aren't. Well, we know there's a few Star Wars fans out here tonight.
My feeling is deeply abraded. I'm hoping all of you are waiting to see everything so you can dive in and just divest me. Shame on you.
Well, let's keep it rolling here. We're moving over to lot 14. We got it's back to some Marvel stuff here with a Captain America and Shield. $600 on this 8.5 by 14 piece. And how often did you draw Cap?
I've done 4 pieces. 1 full graphic novel, a phrase I hate, a short piece, and a part of another. Actually, I've done 4. I did 2 things with Mark Waid, and I did 2 that I wrote. One about a portrait painting that was a reminiscence of the modern Cap, and the other one about the 1950s Captain America's commie smasher, which was it's when I really learned to really appreciate John Romita's early work with that work. It was just insane. I did a book called America First, about that version of Captain America, a different symbol on his hat, and slightly different presentation in the outfit. And I love doing that. That was a lot of fun. Because I'm a pretty left leaning guy, and it was an opportunity to do a right wing screed without losing my own sensibilities. I was pretty happy with that.
That is interesting. I would have thought that it would have been really difficult to kind of do a right leaning. No.
I've been waiting for the right wing to do an interesting book, so I might as well do one myself.
Well, well said. If they're not going to do it, then you do it.
Exactly. I'm glad you understand me.
I do. I get you. But the cap is still out there, everybody, at lot 14.
How dare you? What have I been doing here? Just putting myself out to you. Please stop. Okay.
Well, we've got 4 more pieces to look at.
And I'm waiting for some, come on, man. What is this?
We got lot 14 is an unmasked Wolverine in the brown costume that I think many people enjoy. This was the one that was from the Scorpio Nick Fury book. Right. And this one's $600 on the 8.5 by 14. Claws out on this one, of course. And that was a story actually I really enjoyed.
Well, I penciled it in 1985 and I inked it in 1989.
Why was that?
Because Archie didn't deliver the artwork, the script until 1989. True.
So did you not get paid until 1989?
Oh, I got paid for the pencils and I got paid for the inks in 1989.
Oh, all right, that makes sense.
One of the last things I did before I left New York City for California.
Well, did you have other projects that took like that? I mean,
when I got to California, the first thing I did was do the shadow. I mean, the first piece of artwork I did in my house in California in 1985 was the cover, which became the poster of the shadow, Blood and Judgment for DC. Mm-hmm. My belongings arrived from New York late, and while they were still bringing stuff in from the truck, I was assembling my drawing table so I can get that penciled. So that first autumn and winter in California of 1985 was spent doing the shadow book. And there was torrential rain and it was just absolutely exquisite. And I thought this is fabulous. Then we had our first 7-year drought and it was an adjustment. I loved the house I lived in. I had that first year of California was just exquisite, just lovely. Had a great time.
Oh, that's I wanted to highlight something for Nicole, since I know Nicole's got her eagle eyes on the show. Alfredo mentioned that I made a claim for lot 6 on the Darth Vader, but have not received a return email from Nicole, and I haven't gotten a text from her either. So Nicole, maybe check your spam, or Alfredo, maybe double check that the email was right. But it is still available. We haven't marked it as claimed at all, so I can definitely tell you that. So lot 15, this Wolverine is still available. 2 sets of claws out on that one, everybody.
Because you need 2 for claws. How else are you going to touch it?
That's true. All right. Now we got 3 more to go. And next up, we've got lot 16. Same size board as before, 8.5 by 14. You've got Flagg, Mandy, and Raul on this one. And, this one's awesome. So it's priced $750. And definitely deserving of that. I mean, you got the 2 characters and the cute cat. You can't ask for more than that. But
no, I'm appalled at the fact that people are not champing at the bit to throw money in my direction. Shame on you. Get with it. Get thee with it.
Well, I can mention lot 1 is claimed. I just got a text on that. So that was,
which was lot 1?
That was the blonde.
Oh, great. That's
the standing blonde. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, anonymous person. I'm most grateful for dragging me from a hole of shame.
Let's see here. So if I haven't heard back from Nicole about Alfredo's, okay.
Nicole, straighten out here, babe. Come on. Let's get with it
here. Hey, Mark Fong, you actually need to send in an email to Nicole at thirdeyecomics.com to, somebody did. Well, I guess he did, because 9 and 16 are now claimed as well by potentially Mark Fong. I see he mentioned it in the chat as well, but still nothing on the 6, because I guess Nicole, or maybe Alberto says he did send it to the right email address. So I don't know, double check, or Again, Alberto, I'm just penciling it in that you've got that lot 6. I don't, I'm not sure why Nicole didn't see the email for it, but I'm making a note that you want it, and I know we can work that out, Alberto. So
maybe Nicole is drinking more than she should have at this hour as well.
She does the show at a coffee shop, so that she's only drinking coffee right now. She's not
how utterly casual it is. Don't they know
one of these days, we've got to get Nicole just to pop in so she can say hi,
Absolutely.
so everybody knows that she's there, because she ends up she takes care of receiving the art. She helps pack it. She's like the unsung hero of these shows.
But we have to judge.
We do. All right, so we got 2 more pieces here, and these are both on 11 by 17. And I'm getting a text right now, so I'm going to wait until I see what she says before I pull the piece up. But the first one is that Cody Starbuck piece that you did as. Okay, so there you go. Alfredo's email was in the spam. There's something about the word Darth Vader that's put it into her spam. 6 has.
It's because Dorothy Vader works much more effectively. Darth Vader's wife, Dorothy, is just a lovely woman. She really is. She puts up with so much shit from her husband.
Oh man! All right. Well, here's the Cody Starbuck piece that I referenced earlier. This was, you were honored in Spain, right? For for achievements in comics. I went and saw it. I didn't, I would never have guessed, but you're as fluent in Spanish as you are a wonderful singer. I got to see a couple video clips.
I wouldn't get carried away. I'm reasonably fluent in Spanish. I'm more than menu, but less than college.
Well, hey, I want to throw this before we get to talk about this piece. Lot 4 was claimed as well, so they're now we're moving along. But so this is Lot 17. It's $1,800. So you were asked to go, and I forget the name of the convention, because this was just recently.
Tenerife, yes. I'm just about over the jet lag.
So how did that go? I mean, like you said, you were, because they were the ones that requested a Cody Starbuck piece.
Yeah, I was nonplussed. Not to speak French about a Spanish project, but I was nonplussed. And this is what they asked for, so I accommodated, and that's the story. The end. Next, nada más.
Well, this was so this is like the only published piece that we've ever offered of yours, because you've always done pre-done sketches.
I I threw this into the hopper, and you said, sure, let's go with it. So I did.
Yeah, no. Well, I thought it was good. I mean, I've always kind of thought, like, one of these days we're going to have a published piece out there. So we finally do have one. So this was a print, was used as a print at the show. What they made, like 250, 300, something like that, or yeah. And what was the honor that you were receiving at that show?
Just being a swell guy.
Is that what they said?
Yeah, in Spanish though.
How do you say swell guy in Spanish?
I don't fucking know. I'm making this shit up as I go along. I don't know. No, I mean, I think it was a matter of these people honoring me for work that I did when I was a boy, and but I love Spain. So if someone invites me to Spain, I'm going to go.
So did you actually make a trip of it and do a few days before?
Oh yeah, no, we were overseas for nearly 10 days. I mean,
wow.
Spain is my favorite country on the continent. I really love it. We were in Madrid after this show, and we had a wonderful time. It was great.
Well, I can tell you,
we love Spain. Madrid is my favorite city in Spain, but it was interesting to go to the Canary Islands and see that, despite its location, it really was an extension of Spanish culture in every way, shape, and form. And we became friendly with an Irish couple, Ken Coleman, who's a wonderful digital artist, just sensational. And I'm trying to corrupt his shit too. It's fun.
So Alfredo asked, like, when was this? This was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? Or it feels like it was.
The show was from the 15th. I was there. I was in Spain from the 15th to the 25th.
Okay.
And this piece was done in the early summer of this year.
Very nice. Well, I can tell you this one has been sold, as has lot number 2. So yeah, that's a nice pickup on this one. Congratulations to whomever got it. Yeah.
Which was lot number 2 again? Remind
lot
me.
Number 2. Well, I can swing back and show. Yeah, that was the Satellite Sam.
Okay.
So we'll do a quick recap here as well.
My shaming you and guilting you is finally working. Thank you.
Well, people like to wait on these. They really do take notes. They want to.
But you're causing me agita. I mean, you don't want. Look, you don't want this man to die on screen. You want the love to fulminate.
Yeah,
To grow,
no, I agree. Hey,
to gestate like a virus.
I'm not going to think of it like that. Well, we have one more piece to look at, and this is a cover recreation. And let me go.
By the way, Bill.
Yeah,
we'll keep talking. I'm sorry. Never mind. Pay no attention to me.
Okay. Well,
No, I'm good. Please pay no attention. Please go on. Oh, I love those eyebrows. That was fantastic.
I was trying to give you my Spock look there, but here's lot 18. This is a cover recreation for Tales of Suspense 39. We were talking about Iron Man earlier. And,
I loved the gray version of this character so much. I really did. It was just like what the fuck? It was just so much a part of my boyhood. I loved the fuck out of this shit. I really did. So yeah, here you go. I mean, when I mentioned this, and it was like I broached this to McLaughlin. He said, "Oh yeah, go with it." So that was that. Had a great time doing this. I really did. This is
spinning this back. We both keep spinning it back to McLaughlin. If anything goes wrong, but you know what? 5 of the 6 smaller pieces did sell. So now he's gotten off.
Right.
He's gotten off the.
But hell with him. He has nothing to do with this. It was our execution thereof.
Indeed. And I thought about showing the color piece, just like a picture of the original image. And I decided not to, just because, to me, when I think of this cover, I always think of the great costume. I mean, you know it. Everybody knows it. It looks like well, there you go. Like Jeff said, a tin can suit, but it was awesome. And it even looked good when they did it.
I love the way they reflected to it and did it in the first Iron Man picture with Downey Jr. I really dug that. It was just such a great idea. It was a solid way of approaching the character.
It was. I mean, if Iron Man 1 wasn't as good as it was, I mean, we probably wouldn't have had the whole Marvel universe. I mean,
I agree. What I found, I mean, I live in a small town where nobody has any real idea what I do for a living, except in the most abstract way. And when the movie was trailering, people were going batshit for the movie, having no idea that it had any provenance whatsoever in the comic book universe, none at all. Which I found fascinating. And again, it generated an enormous enthusiasm on the part of people who do not read comics and don't give a shit about comic books in any way, shape, or form. So there you go.
Yeah, no. I mean, I get it. I went into the Iron Man movie not, I was expecting to see the Hulk again. Those.
Right.
And I thought I was going to be disappointed as crap. And at the end of the day, I was blown away. I mean, I saw it a second time. I thought it was so good. But hey,
yeah, I'm sorry.
The question on this piece was Jeff wanted to know, was the title printed on the page or
it's not hand drawn? It is not hand drawn.
So you printed it and then did the rest, everything else. Yep, that makes sense. But and look, Jim McLaughlin is in the audience. See, that's the first time Jim has made a comment on any show that I've done with him. So I really think Jim watched these.
We've been poking the bear so long from the beginning of this that he had to do something,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad Jim's watching. I never knew. I figured he watched him on the radio.
One never knows. Exactly.
All right. Well, this one is still out there. $2,500, lot 18. It's on 11 by 17, like the previous piece was as well. And yeah, Cohen. I never, I should have to tell Jim McLaughlin, because I've never said this to you, Jim, but I got so much crap from everybody because you always said Dennis Cohen. And so I kept saying Dennis Cohen. I'm like, nope. Jim McLaughlin said Cohen. He knows Dennis. There's no way Jim could have it wrong. And then in the green room before my first show with Dennis, I said, "Is your last name pronounced Cohen or Cowan?" And he said Cowan. And I'm like, I'd spent the last 3 weeks with people laughing at me. So now there's like running jokes. Whenever I say an artist's name like Howard Chaykin, they'll say Howard Chowan or something, because they can't let me forget that Jim McLaughlin, sandbagged me and got me saying Dennis's name wrong.
I might add that I correct McLaughlin on this every fucking time. He is just so he is so parochially committed to mispronouncing his name. Bear in mind, though, I've known Dennis since he was 15. So at this point, it is in me to forget how to pronounce his name. I spent last weekend in Columbus, Ohio, alongside him and his sister.
Right.
Who was,
Yeah.
who was,
Marcus said Bill got punked, but that's true, and that's something else we could talk. I had Dennis and Bill Sienkiewicz on a couple weekends ago, and they talked about, because when they had a studio in the same building that you
right.
had with Miller and Simonson, and I forget,
Garland, any number of rotating nitwits.
Right. So you've known him for a long time. You know how to pronounce
yeah.
his name.
Yeah. If I don't by now, there's serious trouble going to commit.
There you go. So
Absolutely.
Jim has a plan. Apparently.
He's like the Dr. Mabuse of comic book fandom. I won't give him the Moriarty credit. We'll go with Mabuse.
All right. Well, hey, I'll let everybody know that lot 15 has been claimed as well. So why don't we just go ahead and recap the pieces that haven't been claimed, and then we can all get on with our weekend here. So
I think that's fine.
Yeah. So lot 1 and 2 were claimed. Lot 3 was claimed and then not claimed. So this one is still available at $200. It's
okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you do get the Human Torch in this one, everybody. You just can't see him. He's just off the page. That's what that line in the back is. It's the Human Torch. He is lighting the stogie here for the thing. Got $200 on this 4x8 lot 3. And let's see, 4, 5, and 6 all sold. So we can go over to lot 7. Sorry, 7's next with the Magneto. And this one's priced at $450, and it is on 8.5 by 14. So this is the normal size that we've had pieces on for Howard in the first 2 shows. So this one's at $450. And then we've got the Wolverine in the more modern costume. Claw's not out, but he's still looking like he either needs a beer in his hand or somebody's throat. But this one's at $500. And let's see here. Moving on to the next one. Oh, lot 3 is now claimed. Everybody. So the Thing has been claimed. That was the Thing. So McLaughlin.
So all six of the McLaughlin derived shorties are done.
6 for 6 for Jim.
Okay. So McLaughlin can now feel justified in his behavior. That's really good. I live to say.
Oh boy, he's not going to let us live that one down. But we got Cowan on him though, that we can always hold on later. Absolutely. All right, so 7 still open with Magneto at $450. This lot 8 with Wolverine, a masked Wolverine, is still available at $500. Let's see, lots 9 and 10. That was the Beverly and the Punisher. Those 2 are sold. So we've got lot 11 available. This one's on the 8.5 by 14. It's Iron Man, of course, at $600. So that one is still out there. The more well, this is Iron Man as he looked when I started reading him. So that his solo book series.
Colan Iron Man.
Yes, exactly. So this one's still out there. 600. Lot 12 with the Shadow has sold to Peter Rowe. I saw Peter announce that in the chat. Congrats on that one, Peter. Then we've got the Luke Skywalker at $600 on the 8.5 by 14. That's lot 13. And we've got lot 14. This was the Captain America, same size board, $600 for this one. And what do we got left? 15, 16, and 17 all sold. So we've got the final piece. That was the Iron Man Tales of Suspense 39 recreation on 11 by 17. The indicia, I guess, is printed, but everything else is original on there. So there you have it. That's what we've got. Howard, what is that? 3.
Well, my feeling is a little hurt, but I will survive.
12 of 18. 12 of 18 pieces. 12 of 18 pieces sold. So 67%. I'll go with that.
But like Gloria Gaynor said, I will survive. I always embrace my inner Gloria Gaynor when my feelings are affronted. But I will live. And I encourage those of you who are sticking around, having seen what others have taken from your hands. There's. He just ruins everything. He ruins everything. Just when you're willing to accept the fact that he's a member of the civilized culture, he does this, and then he's there. So as I was saying, those of you who are hanging around looking for spoils, here's your chance. Okay, take it what you can. Yeah, and
I see some people also in the chat making it known which pieces they got. So thank you, everybody. That's we sincerely appreciate it. And as everybody knows, if you watch the show after the fact, these 6 pieces are still out there. You can email Nicole still, let her know that you want to pick up that piece. I'm going to send out an email probably either this evening or tomorrow afternoon, letting everybody know about the 6 pieces as well. So they're still out there. If you want to think about it for a while, you can. But anything that doesn't get sold gets sent back.
Those of you who don't step up to the plate here will regret this. Maybe not soon, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon, and for the rest of your lives. Lives will be transformed by the choices you make.
Well, Mark wanted to know, or wants you to know, I hope the old man feels the love. So
I feel the like. It's like a character, you know. It's like, you know, I need more at my late age, just more. But thanks, Mark. You, on the other hand, have demonstrated the love. Ooh, snap! The Lipsky steps up and gives the lip. Yeah, yes, baby. And by the way, I don't fetch, I cretch. I cretch.
Cursed by fate. There you go. He said, "I fate worse than death." Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's like death, but an amazing simulation, like Death Mania. You know.
Yes. Well, listen, Howard. As always, this is always educational. You're I walk away learning something all the time, and I'm glad we pulled up those Cody Starbuck DPSs so you could kind of have a little walk down memory lane, make you wonder about what you were going, what was going through your mind when you were working on those darn things.
Mostly drugs.
Mostly drugs.
Mostly drugs. Because that was the sustaining aspect of my career in life at that time. But hey, Bill, thanks so much. I've had a great time. I hope you've had as good a time as I have. I really have. And thanks to all of you who actually came across and helped an old man think about his life in a better way. But the rest of you, you're on report.
Well, Free Energy's thanking you for a signed Dynamic Forces edition of Blade Volume 3. So there you go. Hey, you got lots of them. Yeah.
Exactly. I recognize the fact that I'm a beloved figure. I'm the like my Old Testament beard and everything else. I'm like Moses coming down from the mountain and saying, "Don't worry about the plates. Everything will be fine." You know, it's like really just see, calm down. You know, Kaplunko the tablets. You know what I'm saying there? Yeah.
I know what you're saying. All right, everybody, and Howard, thank you so much for doing this. Have a great weekend.